Good morning, everybody. It's fantastic to be back here. I graduated from UHS 30 years ago. That's right. So I thought I'd spend my time talking about what I've been up to. So we will get started with that. And I do want to say it's pretty amazing that we have a white male rap battler who does spoken word and a black female nuclear physicist that works for the government. So, yeah. So, I see that as a true testament to UHS and the cadre of students that we bring in here. So, what have I been up to? A couple of things: where I came from, what I do, and then kind of the bonus round, right? So, would I be here if I had just gotten my PhD in nuclear physics and worked for a National Nuclear Security Administration? Maybe. But there are some other things on top of that, which I want to talk about in terms of what you define as your personal success that I think are really relevant for today. So, born and raised in San Francisco, California, went to Herbert Hoover Middle School, went to Summer Bridge Breakthrough, 82, 83, so in the early days of Breakthrough, and played the trombone. So I played the flute, but if everybody knows in middle school, there are like 30 flautists, so I was like, oh, I need to be me. And so I went to the trombone and ended up carting that thing on public school buses for the next 10 years, so who was smarter there? So then I came to University High School, as you know, and got to hang out with some really good friends, people that I consider family to this day, so that was very fortunate for me. Kept up with some acting. That's me as a scarecrow in The Wiz. Also did The Me Nobody Knows, in which my hair was similar to this, because it was kind of a 60s style period piece. So going back to that, and I played in the jazz band, so we have that in common. And went to Italy as part of the freshman class with the jazz band and Camerata. There's me with my school spirit showing there on the left-hand side of your screen. And also here with Steve Kubik, who is the person who brought me to you guys' attention for this award, which I'm very honored and proud to receive. Always really liked my friends, my trombone, being in jazz band, and math. So puzzles, all that kind of jazz was like kind of my jam. So I did a lot of that, especially growing up with my dad, played a lot of cards, Mastermind, Rubik's Cube, which I might even have in my bag today, but you know, just things that I like to do when I was younger. So what do you do if you really like math, you don't know what you're gonna do, you're 17, you basically choose the science with the most math in it. And that is what I did. And so I chose physics, graduated, was very happy to graduate. Photos of me being extremely happy with some of my classmates, and then went off to Carnegie Mellon. And I majored in physics in the Mellon College of Science, 1988, left home for the first time, had a consistent diet of macaroni and cheese for breakfast, because I could, went to classes unless it got really, really cold. So the San Franciscans will understand this, that I had my own personal snow days when other people were going to class. I was just like, this is not really for me. I'll get the notes. So, so that is what I did there. Some of my friends, there's a physics major there. And I was fortunate in that the more I learned about physics, the more I liked physics, right? It could have been the inverse. Could have been the more I learned about physics, the more I was like, it's not so much. Fall back on those acting roots. So I stayed in physics and saw that all the way through to the end, and then went on to graduate school at Michigan State University, where I studied nuclear physics. So specifically theoretical nuclear structure, which is basically nucleon-nucleon interactions within the atom. So these are the kind of stages. So if you know chemistry, you'll know kind of your SP levels and PD shells and things like that. So you'll know about those type of interactions, transitions from excited states, things like that. Worked at a cyclotron laboratory, so a particle accelerator. Didn't do many shifts because I was a theorist. I did a lot of modeling and simulation, and I was there for about 5 years getting my master's and PhD. While I was there, I also worked at Black Child and Family Institute in Lansing, Michigan. So I mentioned Summer Bridge. I went to Summer Bridge. I taught at Summerbridge. I tutored while I was at Carnegie Mellon, and then when I went to graduate school, I volunteered at Black Child and Family Institute, and then because things weren't going the way I wanted them to go, I ended up getting hired on staff. So I did that in parallel with my graduate degree. So there's kind of a chain here of kind of outreach, community involvement that started even in middle school and went all the way up through my career. So it's never too early to start contributing to society and to your community, no matter what you're doing in kind of your academic or professional career. And that's going to become important later. Where am I pointing this thing? When I graduated, I did not want to go into academia. I was a little on sensory overload with all the physicists that were around me during school, and so I decided I wanted to go do policy, and I wanted to go to Washington, D.C. to do this. But I had spent, all this money on my degree, so I decided science policy. So I went to work for the Science Committee for the U.S. House of Representatives, and my portfolio basically was authorization of all the federal agencies, me and the staff, not just me alone, of all the federal agencies that fund science and technology. So your National Science Foundation, Department of Energy, NIST, NOAA, all those guys. So those have to be authorized, then appropriations go, and then all those agencies get their money to fund bright young people like yourselves, and then large-scale projects like the one I'll end up running a little later. I did that for about 4 years, then I went on to the Department of Energy. So I went from the legislative branch to the executive branch in 2001. So we're coming up to date, we're getting close. And I work for the National Nuclear Security Administration. So what does NNSA do? Basically, we're a holdover from the Atomic Energy Commission. And if you know about the Manhattan Project and Trinity and things like that, if you know about our nuclear deterrent, it's scientists and technologists that really help us maintain our moratorium on doing underground tests, all right? Said in the short way, we're the reason you don't have to test anymore, because you have smart people that understand weapons and how they work, so you don't have to go out to Nevada and you don't have to do underground tests. And that's a good thing for everybody, right? So that's a very positive change that scientists and engineers, mathematicians, analysts, and so forth are contributing to this nation every day. So if you know about Livermore National Lab, Los Alamos, Sandia, those are where the scientists reside. I do the management back in headquarters. I make sure those guys get their money. I make sure I understand their portfolio. I justify the budgets to Congress, and so on and so on. So when I first started in NSA, I did modeling and simulation, which was very comfortable for me, of nuclear weapons, right? So that was a portfolio I had oversight on. I also did international programs because we have other nations that also have nuclear weapons, some of which we partner with, some of which we want to know what's going on in their countries. And then I came back, I did small scale experiments. So these are all the kind of plasma physics, nuclear physics, hydrodynamics, all the things that go on inside a weapon that you want to understand without actually making it go boom. So that is what I did. Ha. Ha. All right, so this is basically the only slide that has words on it. And it's pretty much a summary of what I just mentioned. It's the modeling and simulation. It's the small scale experiments. It's the surveillance. And what I love about it, I love that it enables us to not test. I love being great at my job, working with great people, working with scientists, but not too close to scientists. So that's a good thing right now in this stage of my life. And that I'm contributing to the security of the nation, right? So it's those kind of things that you're just like, okay, this is a huge calling, right? This is a great thing. You need people who can do this. You need people who can do this across different administrations. You need people who have, kind of institutional knowledge and history of what's going on, how things are changing, that can be adaptable, that can respond to technological surprise or a different threat environment. So you need all of those people, and being part of kind of that machine is a great thing for me. So if you had asked me in high school what I would be, this would be pretty low down on the list, but I'm really happy with where I landed, why I landed there, and what I'm doing. This is really just some of the facilities. That's the National Ignition Facility in your upper left. This is some cabling and piping from when we used to do underground tests and what that apparatus looked like. You can't see kind of like the downhole configuration and things like that. But we stopped underground testing in 1992. But it was really just, a Herculean effort that we did many tests over many years to assure ourselves that the nuclear weapons work. Now we do it a different way. We do it with modeling and simulation, as you can kind of see in the bottom corner. And so we don't have to do the bottom right corner. So as you heard, I work with the Office of Inertial Confinement Fusion. So two things that happen within a bomb, fusion and fission, right? So that's kind of the shorthand. A lot of other things, but fusion. So the only other place you're going to see that is in the sun. So things have to get very, very hot. Light particles have to fuse, obviously, and then that is what gives us confidence. If we understand that process, that's what gives us confidence in our portion of how nuclear weapons have to work. So there's a lot of engineering and other science that goes in there, but fusion is like a big kicker to that. It's so big, in fact, that my program is about $545 million a year to make sure that the facilities that support this work are enabled. So if I had all these degrees, would I be here? Maybe, maybe not. But it really was the fact that I decided that I was going to do outreach. This is me speaking at NBC about a summer school program for middle school students. They wanted somebody who had a long experience in that and who could talk about the importance of catching students when they're young, right? So if you look at grades in math and math proficiency over the years, it's rather high at 4th grade, it gets lower at 8th, and it gets even lower in the 11th and 12th grade. This is especially true for underrepresented populations, right? So people of color and women. So how do we tackle that? So I was asked to speak about that and the need for programs that catch you in the summer, like the one I went to, and programs that will keep you engaged, increase your exposure and access, and let you know that there are people who look like you in certain fields. This led to me being on in this magazine, which is Black Enterprise, where they had kind of a Power 40 list, right? So I had done enough to get in there, but not enough to have my photo in there. So I'm just showing you the cover. So these are the guys who had their photo in there. I have since gone on to be in a number of other magazines. And again, the entry point is being a nuclear physicist, but it really has been my commitment to kind of making sure that there are people that come behind me and that there's a diversity of scientists and engineers, right? Just like there are diversity of aptitudes and talents, there should be diversity within the pool of scientists, engineers, mathematicians, and technologists, right? If we talk about STEM. I've got to meet some pretty cool people along the way, and all of them have really encouraged me to keep going and have really given me strength and helped restore me when I get a little bit tired, right? So you have a 50-hour work week, but on top of that, you want to make sure that you're, going to Saturday programs, you're doing things in the evening, you're starting programs like the one I'm chairing now, which is Algebra by 7th grade, starts with 3rd graders, goes up through 7th grade. So, whatever germ of an idea that you have to kind of contribute and give back, make sure that you foster that and make sure that you keep that alive within yourself. And actually, when you get to your professional life, what I had to do was really let people know that it's a package deal. So they were getting me, they were getting my management expertise, but they were also getting somebody who was going to take Friday off, go back to UHS, right, and talk to the people, that looked like her or that had her same experience or that might benefit from this going forward as part of, my balance and who I am as a human and what I want to leave behind when I'm gone. This was last fall at the Black Girls Rock celebration, and up until being here and having Madeline Albright here, that was the highlight of my life. So things, I am replacing that with today's experience. So these are just some folks, and again, these are people who understood that I was a scientist, didn't really understand what I did, but did understand that I'm trying to be a force multiplier for good, And while it might mean, getting up in uncomfortable situations, might mean public speaking, it might mean, sleepless nights, it's all worth it for what happens in the end, which is making sure that you have a bright young future of scientists, engineers, or people, even if they don't do it, they go into other things, right? So if you don't already know, you'll come across things where even if you majored in physics, you can go on to be a science fiction writer. You can go on to be a art authenticator, right? So knowing the ratio of carbon-12 to carbon-14, is this real art? So things like that. So you can go on and do a whole host of things. You can go into Hollywood and go into the entertainment industry. I actually thought about doing that for a while. If you've seen like Independence Day or Superman, you will understand my reasoning because there is no physics in that movie. Something is wrong, horribly wrong with those movies. So thought about doing that for a while too. This is the Power 100. This is my actual first red carpet. I brought my mom with me just in case there was not a second. I was just like, this is it, Mom, let's go, we're going to LA. So I really enjoyed that experience. And she was just like, I don't know if I want to go on the red carpet. I was like, I don't think they want you on the red carpet. But okay. All right, I think they'll be okay. They'll be crushed, but they'll get over it. This is me in Black Girls Rock. So there was actually a second, and I actually took my fiance to that one in case there is not a third. So I think I have all my bases covered. And then the best part is that I'm a superhero now. Yeah. Thank you. So this was Women's History Month at NNSA, and like I said, people understand, that it's a package deal, right? So they get me as a federal manager and somebody who's helping with the nuclear deterrent, which is critically important, but they also understand that I am a true STEM advocate and champion, and that I am trying to create hundreds of other STEM advocates and champions that will allow me to retire and play poker whenever, I get too tired to do all of this. So with that, thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it.